This is the Norris Group's Real Estate Investor Radio Show, the award-winning show dedicated to thought leaders shaping the real estate industry and local experts revealing their insider tips to succeed in an ever-changing real estate market. Hosted by author, investor, and hard money lender, Bruce Norris.
Welcome back again. Hope you enjoyed part 2 of our interview with Uncle Ward Hanigan. Here's Bruce.
The award that we created, the Rohny Award. Right. You have that because of your reputation in a business that, you know, most people look at trustee sales and go, oh yeah, that's a whole different level of nastiness or something. But you go, no, the man that teaches it's really rock solid. So anyway, it's pretty cool. Now, you got to speak for the first time for Kurt. Is that the first time you were in front of an audience?
I ended up, but what happened was Greg Metcalf decided, when I told him to quit the title company, he said he needed to do something. I said, do the foreclosure notice service. It's, you know how to search a title to foreclosures or any property. And so why don't you go in business and do that? And the company that you got, County Records Research, put them out of business. I didn't know Kurt at the time, and because they didn't sell their service in San Diego market at that time. Right. So I said, you know, what you need to do is you got to build a business that you then can sell for a profit. And that gives you the cash that your dad doesn't have. His dad would not sell those 2 fantastic deals he bought.
Oh.
Okay. And so now and I even went up there to talk with Greg's mom. Called me up and asked me if I would come up and talk to her husband, that's Greg's father, and convince him that to sell or borrow against these properties because he owned them free and clear. And I called him up and tried to explain that how imperative it would be, and he just was obdurate. You know, he just no way. And so, anyways, I said, well, we're going to do the next best thing, Greg. Why don't you just start a company? And that would be a foreclosure notice service company. That'd be fantastic. No more training on your part. You know exactly how to do it, et cetera, et cetera. So he and I conspired. And for that first year, we would talk every day or every other day about different things he could do. And so if there were mistakes made and it was in the public record, that didn't, Kurt would know because he was relying on title company info, which is not as perfect as going down to the recorders. But Greg would know. And so I said, Greg, why don't you go to the sale? And if a lot of people show up for the wrong reason for foreclosure, just say, hey, anybody who's a subscriber for County Records Research, please come over here. I've got information they don't have concerning this deal that you all think is great. Okay, because there's more liens against it than what County Records Research found.
Okay.
Let me prove it to you. And wow, he got subscribers. And so he started proselytizing for subscribers by going down to the sales, which is something that Kurt didn't do. Kurt relied on newspaper advertising. Okay. Right. And so because, and then I started this thing called Help Saturday. So every 5 weeks, I would go up to Orange County, or every 4 weeks. And so I said, why don't you find me, Greg, a place where you can speak to your subscribers, because he was working out of his home and stuff like that. So my wife's a bowler, as you know. And so I knew there were meeting rooms in bowling alleys. And bowling alleys have big parking lots, and they don't charge for parking. Right. And all that stuff was fantastic because Orange County, the hotels charge for parking, and you can have the bowling alley. That community room was virtually unused most of the time. So I said, go on in there and tell them that you're going to have a meeting on Saturday, and that you're going to have 100 people show up, and that means you're going to have the restaurant's going to be overpacked. You know, they're going to be making all kinds of money, even if these people aren't bowlers. You know, et cetera, et cetera. It turned out to be fantastic. And we started out doing it for 4 hours. from 10 to 2 on a Saturday. Pretty soon I was doing it from 8 to like 4, you know, up there because so many people popped up. Well, Kurt loved it. I mean, not Kurt, but Greg loved it because you couldn't get in to come and hear Ward Hanigan talk about foreclosures unless you were a paid up subscriber. So you can't get all those subscribers paid up, you know.
Very
And then
cool.
other people would brag about, oh, this guy knows what he's talking about. And so they would go down and they would have to sign up in order to get in if they weren't a subscriber.
So you guys, let me just make sure I understand. Those were not the investors that were putting up money for him. They were potential competitors for him.
Right. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, yeah, that didn't phase us. We knew that foreclosure notice services sign you up on purpose. They signed you up in those days, I don't know about now, to 2 months because they knew that you would peter out after
Right.
the first 2 weeks. Okay. And
Yeah.
so they wanted to have you at least 2 months. And it was a non-refundable type thing. And so, yeah, that's what is going on there. So most of the people just could not keep up with getting into foreclosure is a full-time activity. And
Yeah.
I didn't realize that until I had to focus on it 100%. Yeah.
You've trained a lot of very successful people, and you've had an event for years where they got together once a year. So tell me about those events.
Yeah, those events were kind of like yours. If we had grads come, if they took any class that I taught, at first I said, if you take any foreclosure class, then I thought, why the hell am I arbitrarily saying, you know, who cares if they took a trust class or if they took a foreclosure class from me or whatever kind of class? Come on, you're part of the family. And so we finally standardized it and it was on the last Saturday of February every single year, so that you could put it on your calendar. And Eric and I chose February because it proved to be the one month of the year that had the least amount of outside activity going on. Nobody's taking vacations in February, and there's no high school graduations, and there's no, you know, this, that, or the other thing. So, yeah.
How many people came usually a year?
About 120, between 120, maybe 140 people a year.
That's very cool.
That was great. And then I just loved it because then what we did at the reunion is I would focus on like a couple of levels deep on some aspect of the foreclosure business. And it was up to, so at the last thing before we disbanded on that day, reunion, we'd say, okay, let's have some ideas of what you want our speakers to be. So I ended up having 2 speakers instead of just Ward Hanigan.
Mhm.
You know, it was Ward and in the morning we would have somebody like Mike Cantu,
Okay.
or somebody like that, or an attorney, or an auctioneer, actual auctioneer, give a talk about the business, foreclosure business from the auctioneer's point of view, you
Okay.
know, and or doing selling property to get the highest price, and we'd have people come and talk about what do you call it, where you furnish it and you decorate it, the house that you're selling.
Stage it, yeah.
What?
Stage it. You're just going to stage the house?
Staging, yes. I'm sorry, I didn't say staging. And so we had people that did that as a full-time business, staging, and how much to stage, and on and on and on. You only had to do 1 bedroom, not all of them, you know, stuff like that. And so, yeah, so I had an outside speaker, and then myself in the afternoon, which would talk about some deeper aspect of foreclosure and some war stories, and, you know, blah blah blah.
How's talk about your Dingbat rental program? Is that I think that's still active in your portfolio. Is that
More
pretty?
so. More so. You know, as I always like to have these things. When I suggest something, I never suggest anything to anybody unless I've actually done it myself.
Absolutely.
Okay, and because I, you know, I can recover from the mistake of, I didn't think of this, or I didn't think of that. Oh man, gee, blah, blah, blah. So, so anyways, yeah,
When did you land on the Dingbat rental as being the best inventory to have?
it was slow because it had happened by, just from curiosity. I was trading. Somebody wanted me to do an exchange. A guy that owned property in Orange County had 4 or 5 houses, and I had like 4 or 5 houses or something like that. So we was thinking of exchanging, and I said sure. Well, he wanted me to take some stupid property he had in San Diego, also,
Mm-hmm.
which was a tiny little house in National City, a 1-bedroom, 1-bath house, and I didn't want it. You got guys like Schwab. What's his name?
Yeah, John Schwab.
Yeah. So it's saying you needed 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage, front and backyard, blah, 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 in a nice neighborhood, all that kind of stuff. And so, that's made sense to me. So why would the hell I want a tiny little 1-bedroom, 1-bath house that's 60 years old, that has been ignored and neglected for most of that time, and has no yard, no garage, blah, 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 And so finally this guy said, it's either you take this stupid house or I'll find somebody else who will, oh, okay. So I took that in on a trade, and I turned it over to Eric. And I swear, I instantly forgot about it for about 2 years. And I asked one day, I said, Eric, what the hell did we ever do with that? There was this tiny little house and had this old lady in it. And where the hell was it? Down in Nasty City, I think. And blah, 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 blah. What did we do with that thing? How much did we get for it? Oh, we still have it, Dad. And I said, well, wow, you must have a lot of vacancies on that tiny piece of shit. He said, no, in fact, the lady that was in it is still there. I go, huh? Really? And I drove down to look at it, and that got my curiosity, like, how in the hell does that happen? Because I had experienced one time owning an apartment house, 2-story apartment house, and they were all 1-bedroom, 1-bath apartments. And I had 100% turnover, no matter what I did, how thorough I qualified people. I had 100% turnover because it was just a transient abode. People coming into town and not knowing the town well, and so not wanting to buy until they knew the better neighborhoods and the streets and the traffic pattern and all that kind of stuff. And so I had about 100% turnover, and almost all 1-bedroom, 1-bath apartments that I had. And I used to manage a lot of apartments for people because that was another objection. The way I would get over it, I say, listen, if I manage it for you, okay, will you then buy this property? I go, yeah, oh, great. Okay. So then I would manage it. And so I had a lot of management, 10 years of management experience. And
but the 1-bedroom house rented differently and more consistently.
Absolutely.
And those people stayed forever.
Well, you have to be unique in 2 things. Number one is it's got to be a 1-bedroom, not a 2-bedroom or anything else. It can't be a studio. So it's a 1-bedroom, 1-bath, and it's got to be a senior retiree who's on Section 8.
Right.
Those 2 critical things. And so you got people all the time that will say, oh, what's a duplex is better, or have 2 1-bedrooms with one on each end and all that kind of stuff. No, and you don't want multi-member families because they grow up and split up, and every time there's a split up or a joining, there's a difference in your bedroom requirements, and so now they're moving. So I'd finally discovered that it's got to be a 1-bedroom, 1-bath, dedicated single family house. Cannot be 2 stories. It's got to be in a residential neighborhood, can't be out in the boonies, and just on and on and on. So I finally built one. I don't know if you know, I built one.
I did.
Oh, it turned out to be fabulous. Yeah.
Now you also have an interest, I hear, in garages these days.
Doing what?
Garages?
Yeah. But yeah, I rent garages, and I love a property. I'll pay more for property if the garage faces an alley or faces the street, so people don't have to walk through to get access to the storage goods. And and I got that information out of, I built a self-storage facility in Mesa, Arizona. We had that for 12 years operating that, and I finally sold that in 2020. And so we started out with about 3 million in it. I had one, and then got a loan from the Bank of Arizona or some damn thing in Arizona. And so we bought the land, built our own 776 units.
Wow.
And, we're going to operate it for 4 or 5 years and then sell it, exchange into something bigger and stuff like that. And the market at the time just was not apropos to doing that when we went in 3 years or 4 years, whatever. And so finally, Eric was one of my investors. And are you still with me?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm listening to you.
I don't see you anymore for some reason.
Oh, I didn't.
Hey, Eric?
I can hear you fine.
Oh, it came back.
Yeah.
Never mind. I lost the view and it came back.
Okay.
So anyways, we had, what was it? What was I on?
The big project that you 700 houses.
Oh, 776 storage units. Yeah. So we bought the land, and I bought the land. It wasn't zoned for storage, but it was on 2 commercial streets, the intersection of 2 commercial streets in Mesa. And I thought it won't be difficult to get, but just to be sure, I made sure that I bought it cheap enough that if I couldn't get the zoning, I could turn around and flip it for a profit.
Okay.
So it turned out we got the zoning. And
Are you converting garages in San Diego somehow?
for ADUs,
Yeah.
yeah, I would. What my idea is, and I'm probably will do it. There's a neighborhood down here. You notice all the crappy areas have crappy neighborhood names.
Okay. Yeah.
I call it C neighborhood. Stands for crappy.
Okay.
And so it's called the Shelltown. Huh? Shelltown. How would you like putting Shelltown?
Yeah.
But anyways, 80 years ago, 1940 is when I was born. They zoned the way property used to be sold, right, was not in projects. Housing projects came out with Levittown after World War II.
Okay.
So 47, 48, something like that, back in, I think it was New Jersey. So before that, the way properties were built was some guy would go out and aggregate the land, get an engineer to divide it up into parcels with set-asides for streets and alleys and, sidewalks and all that stuff, and see what the yield is. And then they would have, a weekend open house, perpetual open house there, and guys, salesmen, inhabiting a on-site motorhome office selling the lots. And so that's what they did down here with that property. The property wasn't that great back then. And so in order to encourage the success of people coming out and buying, they sold oversized lots. It was like a shoebox shape. And so, but long enough or deep enough to where you'd build a house that faced the street, and then in the back, you build another house sometime when you can afford it that faced the alley. Okay. And so right now, if you drive down in that area, down the alleys, you'll see that it's pretty well been fleshed out. But there's enough houses or properties that nobody ever did bother building in the back end.
Okay.
And I bought a foreclosure, a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house about, 18 years ago or something down there, and never did anything about improving it beyond the original 2-bedroom, 1-bath house that's there. And finally, I decided to put a unit in the back. I didn't have to pay for the land because I already owned the property.
Right.
So it cost me $150,000 out of pocket to build my 1-bedroom, 1-bath ADU. and it turned out so great. And that, and Eric and I collaborated on putting touches in it that would make it much easier for a senior to live in it. So no steps, every doorway at least 36 inches or wider.
Right.
You don't get to the bathroom by going through the occupant's bedroom. You know, it's got an entrance from the main area, not going through. I still can't stand that configuration of going through a bedroom to get to the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
And et cetera, et cetera. All the little touches that I liked, and sharp corners are made radius, and there's two. There's an entry and an exit. You know, in case there's a fire here, you can get out there instead of trying to climb through a window. All that kind of crap. And so that lady that moved in, she's a little bit ditzy, and so even though she's in her 50s, she's not employable, but she can handle her own affairs and live alone and on, very successfully. So she'll be there for, according to my statistics, at least a minimum of about 30 to 35 years. That's 30 to 35 years uninterrupted rental cascade coming in. Okay.
It's a heck of a business model.
And I have 20 of those now, and they will never, they have the same mindset the owner has. The owner does not want anybody that move out. Because every time you have a move out, you got all the costs of vacancy cost. You got to put new carpet, you got to paint, you got to do this, that, and the other thing. We strip it of everything if we buy it, rather than building it. We strip it of anything that's going to be unnecessary. So we don't provide a dishwasher. One bedroom, a one member family doesn't eat enough to have a dishwasher.
Okay.
Don't need a garbage disposal. They buy their own refrigerator. What else? The compact microwave. They get their own microwave. All that. We take out all carpet. Right? So we have no carpet. So now we have very, very, very little maintenance calls. Zero, just about. You know, once in a great while in the desert areas where I have some of my units, the air conditioner might need some repair or something like that. But you know, that's about the only call we get. We're now replacing even water heaters. We do inline water heating instead of putting in a new water heater. Because I want to be able to have properties. My farthest property is Sacramento. I tried buying 3 units, a 3-on-1 in Anchorage, Alaska. And it didn't go through because, you know, we couldn't get the agreement on money. But otherwise, I could care less if it's in Anchorage, Alaska.
That's funny.
All right. So sometime when you want more grist for the fodder, call me up and ask my idea of going out in neighborhoods and putting more ADUs up without buying the land.
Let's talk about it right now.
Okay. So I traveled up, and I enjoy putting up this ADU or my Dingbat so much that I was driving up and down the alley to park on a driveway that I made accessible from the alley while the construction was going on this house. And then I started walking down the alleys and started noting that, hey, even though 80 years had passed, and you'd think that just about every parcel would have 2 houses, one in the front and one on the back end, there were enough of them that didn't go ahead and put one on the back end. And so I wanted to think, God, it'd be great. I got a pile of cash, you know, that's gathering dust balls or something. And so why don't I go down and somehow, some way, convince this property owner not to sell me his property, but let me build without a penny out of his pocket an ADU unit on the back end, just like I built. And by the way, I got a demonstrator, right? I have a model.
Right.
I made a deal with the gal that rents from me that with a 24-hour notice, she'll let me bring someone by and show them the inside. And I give her $50 spiff every time she does that. She likes getting the extra 50.
Yeah.
And now I got an actual real world model of what I want to put on the back end of this guy's property. And without asking him for a penny. What I want is but I want to make sure, because if I'm going to put $150,000 in that, I don't want to cut short. So I need to get the rent off of that unit to pay me back what it costs me to put it up, plus my profit. So I want a 25-year forgiveness loan. Okay. I'm doing like municipalities do when they want cops to move in, sketchy neighborhoods or school teachers and this and that, is pay the down payment. If they stay there 10 years, they forgive the down payment loan. Well, I'm doing that same sort of thing. But if you let me put this unit up out of my own pocket and let me manage it and let me make any and all repairs and et cetera, for 25 years, at the end of the 25 years, I'm going to give you a reconveyance.
Wow.
It's yours. And so I was just ready to begin doing that. I found out that, at least temporarily, I was making so much more money in the stock market. I mean, I took the sale proceeds from Arizona, the self-storage facility, and took $3 million of that and put it in the market. And so I added to some of the Tesla stock I was buying, and about 10 stocks. But anyways, in that year, I made over $8 million on it. And I know that's stupid. I'm not the brightest guy in the world.
Yeah, you're pretty close.
But, and then I had to pay, you'll really laugh at this. I was going to get around to making sure I could pay my taxes on that, right? And so tax bill comes due in last year, 2021. No, this year. Yeah. And so I had to pay, 2.6 million. So, and I had it in stock. I just didn't want to sell my Bitcoin, which went up incredibly. And I didn't want to sell Tesla. So I'm sitting here thinking, shit, where the hell can I get a loan? I got something of value. It generates income. Maybe I can get a loan instead of on my properties. Maybe I can get a loan on the stock, because what happened is Tesla, I bought 2,000 shares. Right. Then it went through unbelievable. It went through this 5-for-1 stock split. So now I got 10,000. And so I called up Schwab, my broker, and said, hey, don't you guys make loans on stock, as a security? Hell yes. And so crazy. They give me a loan less than 2% on 2.6 million. So I pay my taxes with that.
Okay.
Nuts. So now I'm trying to figure out how to live off of loans instead of income. And so not pay any tax.
There you go. Interesting.
Yeah. And that's what Musk does.
All right, my friend, I have enjoyed catching up with you.
All right. So I'm going to perfect this thing and I've got it just about done. I've got the forgiveness loan and the promissory, the paperwork necessary for me and them to sign. And if you have anybody that wants an idea, and a little niche that they could probably do in Florida or anywhere else where they're at.
I was thinking about that.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, Florida has its share of older people, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, Ward. Have yourself a great holiday.
Thanks for calling me.
For more information on hard money loans and upcoming events with the Norris Group, check out thenorrisgroup.com. For information on passive investing with trust deeds, visit tngtrustdeeds.com.
The Norris Group originates and services loans in California and Florida under California DRE License 012-19911, Florida Mortgage Lender License 1577, and NMLS License 1623669. For more information on hard money lending, go to thenorrisgroup.com and click the Hard Money tab.